Hey guys, grapes. This seems to be one of the most popular things I talk about. It's really where I get most of my questions. I'm not an expert, but I have been doing this for 5 or 6 years and we've gotten pretty good results. Last year we had a huge harvest from 4 different vines, probably 65 pounds. This year it's looking like it's going to be more. I tried a different pruning style in my last video in the fall that I was a little nervous about, but I've actually I have more bunches of grapes this year than I did last year, so I'd say that that was more effective. But today I want to talk about how you get the biggest grapes, especially on your new and small vines. When you buy your plant or your vine from a nursery, you could get grapes that first year or two. They're not going to be huge and you're not going to get a ton, but there are ways to make them bigger. So we've talked about general grapevine care in a different video that I'll link right here. And we've talked about the irrigation, everything like that. We've talked about pruning grapes in a different video, which I'll link right there. One thing also, though, I have read since, and I've never had an issue with this because we don't have harsh winters here. But when it comes to pruning them, a lot of people actually suggest pruning them at the earliest start of spring because if you have a really hard frost, it can hurt your grapes. We just don't get cold enough here, so I actually prune in the fall. But in colder climates, that might be something you want to talk about or look into. But let's talk about these grape bunches. I have tons. And if you can see this right here, generally I'd probably wait until they're a little bit bigger to do this. You can do it whenever you want. But what I'm going to do, and this is really hard, it seems counterintuitive, I'm going to cut part of the bunch off. And I know when I do this, it's like a painful experience for me because I'm like, there's a bunch of grapes, especially when you look at the pile at the end, you're like, that could have been grapes that I harvested. But it's kind of like your fruit trees. If you don't thin out your fruit trees, like your apricots, sure, you might have more apricots, but they're going to be that big. So I personally would rather have fewer good, healthy apricots. The same goes for grapes. I'd rather have fewer and healthier and thicker grapes. Um, but the last couple years, the issue we've had has been we have too many. We still have grapes frozen in the freezer from last year. This year, we're going to try new things with them, so stay tuned for that. I want to show you how we actually go in and thin this out. So I'm going to we'll start with this one because I think it's a good one to show. You can see here, there's quite a bit on that. Last year, I went down here and I cut off maybe 10%, and it helped, and I got bigger grapes. I still had a lot of grapes, and there were still some smaller than I wanted. So this year, I'm actually going to do closer to 25. And that, like I said, is painful looking at that, knowing that that right there is what, 50 grapes, and that's just one bunch. So we're going to go through and do this for the whole vine. But before I put it on the time lapse, there is another thing you can do. And I haven't quite come to terms with this one yet because I'm still really greedy with my grapes. But if you zoom in here, I'm going to cut this branch just because it's in a way, and this leaf. All right here, off of this main branch, I have two bunches. I have this bunch and I have this bunch. Now, some people will say, clip that second bunch on the branch. I'm not doing that. I did it on this one, and maybe next year we'll see how we like it with just cutting 25% off all bunches and not cutting back the second or third bunch on the same branch. I'm not to that point. So we are just going to go in and we're just going to cut off, like I said, 25% or so. And that's just a number I've come up with. I did roughly 10% last year and it helped. 25% seems like a good number. So I guess we'll see in July when we harvest them. But let's do the time lapse and go from there. All right, that's not all. I can't get them all. I'm sure I missed some, but it's a good number. I lost count over 100 bunches. There are a couple exceptions where I will clip the smaller, the second or the third bunch, and I want to show what those are. So in a situation like this little vine right here, bunch right here, isn't going to give me much. And so honestly, I think it's better just to clip that so that this bunch can grow bigger. And I have that same thing in several places. I have it back here, have it right here, got it right here. Also up in here, I've got some smaller ones. And one other thing that I want to be kind of watching while I'm doing this is I can get rid of some of these excess vines that are just kind of coming out. Because keep in mind, you want good light and good airflow. So some of those on the end that are hanging out, I can get rid of them. Don't need to, but especially in the middle. And then down here, I don't want vines or bunches coming off this low or new branches coming off this low. Same thing over here. That can go, that can go. All of those can go. You can kind of see how much are on the ground there. And some are still caught up in a leaf, so. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, like always. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below in the comments section. Let me know if you have different methods that have worked for you. This is a trial and error thing for me. This is what's worked, but I've gotten really lucky on my grapes. I haven't had a ton of issues. So if you have better ideas, let me know. I'm always open to your suggestions as well. Thank you, and we'll catch you next time.